There's a stark global contrast right now with inflation and the growth of various different economies. Whether you look at US, Japan, Russia, the UK, or whether you look at Estonia in Europe, you'll see contrast coming in these particular countries, and of course many others, including Argentina, which right now has got interest rates of nearly 70% because its inflation rate is 70%. We look at what's happening. Japan's stock market is up. It's actually got inflation just around 2.5%. It's had deflation for so long. It's actually welcome to have some form of inflation. Will its economy drop? Okay, well, right now it's not, but it's thought that its growth will slow down in Q3, even though it's still actually growing. You look at the US and you've had negative 2 quarters, 0.9% last quarter, 1.6 previous quarter for growth. We look at Russia. Russia fell off 4% in the last quarter. Many expect it to be a much bigger fall in GDP. So we've got a fall off in the US GDP, not as great as Russia, but Russia not so far behind, so far further than the US of 4%. And yet we've got growth in Japan, we've got growth in China. China's fallen in its growth. It was growing, don't forget, 6% per annum. It's now growing at 2.5. So we're going to see a pickup in China for sure at some stage in the near future. Okay, Japan, expect it to level off a little bit, but still be growing. UK, it's got issues. It's trying to kill inflation. And one of the reasons for that is that the Bank of England's interest rates are going to be higher than other interest rates around the world. And the reason is the Bank of England, its sole objective is to kill inflation, whereas other central banks around the world take other factors into consideration. Okay, UK inflation is going to be hitting 10%. It's not as bad as Argentina, but it's still massive. Okay, what does all this mean? Okay, well, we get, when you have inflation, you get social unrest. Okay, and that's the real big issue for these particular countries. You get strikes. You can see it happening in the UK. You can see unrest in America. So we don't want high inflation that affects the poor and causes people to be causing unrest, to be going on strikes, to be in their various different environments looking to blame the people that are running the country and actually looking to rebel against the leaders of that particular country. You see it with, of course, the Trump issue, where there's many people that still massively support Trump and believe everything that he does is correct. It's this divide that we don't want. How do you solve it? Okay, well, number one, you need to solve inflation. You need to get it so that people can afford to pay their way. They can look after themselves, they can feed themselves, and they can keep themselves warm in the winter time. Has to be the number one objective for governments. Number one. Okay, then at the same time, there needs to be strong leadership. I would suggest here in many countries there isn't strong enough leadership. Europe's got its own issues. Germany needs, of course, to be making sure that it's got enough power to keep its manufacturing going. That's in doubt right now. Okay, and of course, it's such a powerhouse for manufacturing. Okay, the world doesn't want that to happen. And Germany, of course, will be doing everything. And they're super organized, aren't they, the Germans? Okay, we believe that they will actually do better than what's expected. Countries like Argentina and Turkey, which have got these massive rates of inflation, have to get those under control and get their currencies under control. Were they living beyond their means? That's the accusation of those particular countries. Were they perhaps borrowing too much money? Inflation starts to get away. Dependence on the dollar. Okay, and then, of course, they get themselves into massive issues. It's a time for prudence. It's a time for killing inflation, making sure it comes down. But most important of all, it's a time for strong leadership. Right now, we've got a divided world. We don't want to see that. Okay, we want to see a world where you've got good leaders in each individual country that are pulling those countries together, okay, and making sure that we come through the next 6 months, in particular, in my opinion. And that's where there's the dangers of recessions in many different countries. If we're not already in them, okay, people will live through a recession as long as they've got hope, as long as they believe it's gonna get better. Up to the politicians to do their jobs, up to the business people to make sure they make their companies even even more efficient, because don't forget, politicians make a difference, but so do business people, and so do individuals, so do me and you. Okay, in other words, if everybody collectively is producing more and actually making the economy better, it actually makes a difference. So don't think you can't have an effect. Everybody has an effect. Do your bit. Okay, let's make sure that we put also pressure on these politicians to be strong, stand up. Let's get rid of inflation. Let's look after the people that need looking after. And let's make sure that we get the economy going to the levels that we all know it can be done with everybody being more effective. Okay, hit subscribe. I'll give you the information on the markets. I'll give you the information on what's happening on the economies and what it takes to be successful in life. That's my thoughts for today. Please like, please share the video.